In the lands of the mysterious and the pure heat of hell itself, I found myself outside in the suns of San Diego with a mission to never smell the stink of the locals inside of Comic Con, as well as somehow make entertaining content while spending heaps of money in the world's nerdiest IKEA. So obviously this is a bit different than the usual content that I do on this channel. So forgive me if it comes off a little bit strange. Because quite frankly, I have no idea how to make this besides just explaining what I was doing on each day and explaining any troubles or fun I got to have. So let's just start with the actual experience of getting to Comic-Con. And this isn't meant to be a tutorial by any means because quite frankly, being a trip planner for me and my girlfriend is hard enough. And I don't want anyone acting like I'm the example you should follow for trips in general. But this entire process takes about a year worth of planning and about 10 months of executing during the year, because they allow you to buy tickets for Comic-Con a couple months after you've already gone if you went to the previous one. And since I've done this journey before, I can tell you it blows getting tickets through the previous attendees pool, maybe 3% less than the general admission pool. Let me tell you, everyone is against consumerism until your ass is sitting watching a toucan mascot for 2 hours, which symbolizes your place in line to buy tickets for the consumer convention. And besides surviving this hell, you actually need to find a place to stay in Comic-Con for a reasonable price during the week. I personally like doing Airbnbs for the week that I attend because the hotels are just tweaking price-wise. So my strategy is always make the reservation as early as you physically can, because most Airbnb hosts aren't going to change the price of their Airbnb until like 6 months beforehand, maybe. So if you get the jump on them, there's a good chance that you'll catch them off guard and they won't realize what's going on until Comic-Con is around the corner and they've been screwed out of $30 trillion. And you might call this scummy, unnecessary, or some other word that belongs on a Black Ops 2 emblem, but I call it the art of war. And the only way to play Comic-Con is by making the game your bitch well in advance of it even knowing that you're playing. The last thing that's really important is the exclusive portal, which opens up about a week or two before the convention starts. And this shit has a ton of opportunities for signings from comic artists, as well as different booths like Jazzwares, Mattel, and Funko. These listings you can use your slots on are random chance. You spend your allotments for more entries to attempt to get into a specific time slot for the companies or an event. But with all of that out of the way, we can actually get into the convention center for preview night. Now, I drove to San Diego the same day as preview night because the distance between where I live and San Diego is just long enough to where I probably wouldn't do a day trip there, but I would never want to fly there. But I also decided to leave at 1 a.m. in the morning so that I wouldn't have to deal with traffic in LA at all. Which, if you know the LA area, you know that there are huge time bombs hour-wise when it comes to LA traffic. Going to work, traffic starts at like 4:30, ends around 9:30. Lunch traffic starts around 11, ends around 3. And going home traffic starts at 4:30 and ends at like 7. So leaving at 1 a.m. makes it so I can just barely get away from LA with flying colors and never have to smell the stench or see a homeless tent until I decide to again, probably for horror nights or something. And I don't have any footage of my journey to Comic-Con, but I do have plenty of footage of my actual time there. So, time to show it off. We got to the convention around 5:30, and preview night is supposed to be the night where there is way less people than the rest of the convention. And quite frankly, I couldn't really tell because of just how many stupid people. And this comment also doesn't include the troglodytes dragging carts around, as well as people bringing their babies or their dogs in strollers so they can waste as much space as possible. And part of the game at Comic-Con is making sure to fuck over everyone else as much as possible. If you either need to get somewhere quickly or for everyone else's physical safety because of your own degrading patience. In my case, it's usually both, but not on preview night. The way I see this day is specifically for scoping out stuff you want from the non-corporate vendors, so you might be able to score a deal on Sunday. But that only comes after getting your exclusives from the corporate vendors who didn't show up on the exclusive portal. In my case, that was Hasbro. I wanted the Optimus Prime cereal box, and I got my Optimus Prime cereal box. And the way they run this line is kinda smart, but in the dumbest way possible. They don't allow some ginormous line that stretches all around the convention center, but they have a line that is small, and they cap and force you to come back or loop around the booth a couple times so you can squeeze yourself in between a family and the fattest lard ass you've ever seen in your life. But to say the very least, I got my cereal box, and on another day I ended up getting a secret lair for Magic the Gathering as well. And they even gave me some stuff for free, like some welcome decks for Magic and a comic for X-Men 97 Season 2. And this was the only major corporate exclusive stuff I got, and honestly, I just walked around the con for the rest of the night. My girlfriend and I were extremely tired from our drive, so we walked around the general vendors, and I honestly saw a lot of stuff I thought I'd be buying on Sunday, but turns out a lot of people had the exact same idea, so I didn't really end up getting anything. So we dipped and went to our awesome Airbnb, which felt like a sanctuary from heaven after how long we had been awake, and waited for the next day. I don't have a lot of footage of Thursday, but this was basically our dedicated day to walking around Artist Alley. It was like 10 times busier than it was on preview night, with thousands of people getting in the way of literally everything. We actually ended up venturing outside of the convention for food, since the prices for food are about the same as a restaurant inside of the convention, and I'm just not gonna pay $15 for a hot dog when for $5 more I can get a meal with actual presentation. Thursday was mostly uneventful. Like, I think I bought a few stickers and a mouse pad since the one I had was really screwed up. But Friday was the beginning of the end for my patience, especially when it comes to how Comic-Con as an event runs in general. And this day was also kind of uneventful, to be honest. We spent maybe like 2 hours inside of the convention, then spent the rest of the time inside of a line for Hall H on Saturday. If you don't know what Hall H is, that is basically the best place to be if you're fortunate enough to go during a year when Marvel Studios is attending. All of the big studios show up and debut footage, usually exclusive for the people inside of Hall H. In Marvel's case, they reveal exclusive info, they show off anything they might have in the works, and if there's a movie around the corner, then they will show new trailers that no one else gets to see. But again, all of this is on Saturday. Today, we have to deal with hell on earth, which is waiting in line to get a wristband so that you can be inside of the first seating line. So you have a guaranteed spot inside of Hall H as long as you get this wristband. But the way that they do this shit is the most inefficient way possible. They have everyone line up in these designated areas behind the convention center with no shade besides under the trees. And that's only if you were lucky enough to get under them before someone else took that spot. Then you have to wait until 7:30 for them to begin handing out the wristbands. Now, there isn't a whole lot wrong with this system besides that they don't provide you with any shade, despite being one of the most profitable events in the history of any consumer level event. The real problem is that after they start handing out these wristbands, it will take hours and hours and hours to actually get them. Because there are maybe like 4 or 5 people that are handing out these wristbands for the entire night. I don't know how many of you have worked retail before, but imagine if you went into a store and they only had 2 registers for about 4,500 people. You can imagine that it would take quite a while to scan all of their items and check them out and bag their items, then they can finally go. See, that example is understandable to take a long time because they have a physical limitation being how many cash registers they actually have. You can't expect them to upgrade their store instantly when things get a little busy. Here's the difference at Comic-Con. With as many people that are paid to be there, there are an infinite amount of people that are unpaid volunteers. Like, when I say infinite, there are genuinely an unfathomable amount of people who aren't being paid to deal with this shit. So they don't care about going fast, especially when there is barely anyone working on one specific issue. So the people who run this event see that thousands of people have decided to line up for these fucking wristbands, knowing that the process includes the workers checking IDs as well as badge viability, and they still decided that only 4 people should be handing out wristbands. So me and my girlfriend got in line around 3:30 p.m. We got out of line with our wristbands at 11:50 p.m. So about 4 hours and 20 minutes after they started handing them out. We waited in line for fucking 8 hours and 20 minutes for a wristband just so I can wait in line for the next day at Hall H. Anyone else would see how flawed this system is and instantly change it or add more workers so that it could actually be efficient. And they have done this system for 3 years to my knowledge, and they haven't even changed it a little bit. They haven't added tents to make the heat at least a little bearable, even though they have specific areas for lines where it would be easy to add tents. And they haven't changed the actual system of distribution. But at least you don't have to stay overnight unless you want an actually great seat in the convention for Hall H. So we decided to go back to our Airbnb because we didn't want to wait overnight. And when we got there in the morning, we actually just got to see a line of thousands of people. And we were pretty close to the end. And we got there early in the morning at 6:30, since apparently you can't join the line even if you have a wristband after 7:30. So getting there at 6:30, we had to wait 5 hours since the first panel at Hall H was at 11:15. 5 hours of waiting. And I wish I could say that there is some way to improve this, but honestly, the only way I could see them doing that is just making this experience a little better by at least allowing people to enter Hall H early and just cutting that time a little bit, like maybe by 2 hours. So we could have been in like around 9:30 and then we have to wait for the first panel to start. It just would have made it a lot more bearable. If I wasn't obsessed with the idea of finally being able to see Marvel Studios release some stuff inside of Hall H, I would probably never do this again. But to be fair, the only reason this was anywhere near this bad is because Marvel Studios was attending. And it also didn't help that the panels before Marvel weren't really all that interesting. The first one of the day was dedicated to animation in the film industry, and the second one was Apple's first appearance at Hall H for Apple TV. And they had some really nice presentation, but I hadn't seen a single episode of any of their shows that they talked about. And I was really hoping that they'd talk about Severance, but I guess they literally just started production on season 3, so that was always out of the question. Then the next panel was 4 actors talking about their experience in the industry, which no disrespect to them, but at this point, I just wanted to see Marvel. So listening to 4 people at all, where they aren't talking about anything I give a shit about, right before I'm about to hear about all the shit I really want to know about, just made me a little bit frustrated. But after that panel ended, we got handed some Doctor Doom masks and cloaks, meaning we were probably about to get hit with some pretty awesome shit. So I gotta say, as my first time seeing Marvel at Hall H, I absolutely loved it. Getting to see Ryan Gosling get announced as Ghost Rider live, seeing a new trailer for Doomsday, having Ryan Reynolds crash the event as Deadpool, and would I say that I would wait in that line all over again to do this shit? Honestly, I don't know. I'd probably hesitate pretty hard, but I also don't think that it helped that we had no shade and barely had any entertainment while waiting in the lines. And if I had a fan, an umbrella, and maybe a better feeling chair, I could probably conquer this shit pretty easily. But there needs to be some serious changes to Comic-Con as an event, because as it stands right now, it feels like they're fucking holding this thing together with gum and toothpicks. It's embarrassing sitting through planners' incompetence, especially when I know they make a shit ton of money to not even come up with an actually good strategy to handle this shit. Overall, though, me and my girlfriend had a really fun time at Comic-Con, and I honestly just wanted to make a video out of it. I'm definitely going again next year since it's kind of a tradition for us at this point, so if you like this video at all, leave a like down below, and leave a comment what your favorite comic character is, and why. Next video is probably going to be the Halo remake, plus I want to start streaming again, so if you want to see any of my normal videos, please check those out, and maybe even subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. This is Glitchy, signing out.